All right, guys, welcome back to Candace Live. What can I say? Right at the top, I think I respect Kamala Harris. I have to respect this sort of greatness when you see it. When you just have a woman who really has no association, never in her life with the Black community at all, didn't even have a relationship with her Black father, doesn't have a relationship with her Black father, and then just magically does a trick and decides to be the Blackest person, or at least a caricature of what she thinks a Black person is supposed to be, and has people booty clapping on stage for her. And now suddenly she learned and speaks Ebonics. And I have to respect it because Black people are accepting it. It seems by and large, she's getting a round of applause. People are laughing along with her as she pretends that she listens to hip hop music. And so, like I said, I got to respect this greatness. When I see it, we're going to talk about her. But first, we have to discuss what's going on in Venezuela, because tons of people were messaging me going, Candace, what's your opinion? This is crazy. Look at all these protests. What's happening down there? What has happened everywhere? What has happened here? What has happened all around the world? Who do you think is behind what's happening in Venezuela? I'll give you one guess. You get 3 letters of a guess. That's what we have coming up on Candace Live. All of a sudden, everybody became an expert on Venezuelan politics overnight, and they're freaking out. If you're not terminally online, tons of people are sharing videos, some of them not even videos from this year, but sharing videos on X and on Instagram about what is happening in Venezuela, because they just had their elections. And unlike America, where people, if you contest the election or you think that there was any risky business in America, you are an insurrectionist. Apparently, you're allowed to do that in other countries. You're allowed to question the results of an election. And that is at least what Venezuelans are learning, as they have the support of the mainstream media apparatus here in America, as well as the surrounding countries in Venezuela. Because so they had an election, and their incumbent president, Nicolas Maduro, we all know who Nicolas Maduro is, and my suspicion is he's actually about to be killed, and I'll tell you why. But the results came in, and the victory margin was he had 51% of the vote, weighed against 44% from the opposition. The opposition candidate was a man named Edmundo Gonzalez. But people felt that this was shady business because it is a corrupt country. Honestly, at this point, I'm looking for a country that is not corrupt. And they felt that they especially knew that it was wrong because there was all of this polling that was done, which showed the Venezuelan people that the opposition candidate, had a very clear lead, that he had double the support that Maduro had. So when these election results came in, they said, absolutely, this cannot be the circumstance. And they have taken to the streets. Now, what began as a peaceful protest is a peaceful protest no more. Maduro has now sent out the police to crack down on the streets because there have been so many violent clashes. And in one circumstance, the protesters began pulling down statues. One such statue was the statue of Hugo Chavez, the former president of Venezuela, to express their rage over the results. Now, like I said, very interesting to see how the international community is responding to this, because I don't know if I'm like a dinosaur. Okay, I might be a dinosaur. I'm not a spring chicken anymore, but I'm old enough to remember when this similar situation happened in America, and it was a long time ago. It must have been like, I don't know, like 2020. And I remember when people were peacefully protesting on January 6th, and nobody in the international community had the support of the American people, who were calling into question how it was possible that Trump had a lead, right, when we were awake and they were counting the votes. And then suddenly, when nobody could stay awake anymore, there were some random leaks in some facilities in swing states, and they had to stop counting. And we woke up, and suddenly Biden was the president. And we weren't allowed to ask any questions unless we were being deemed an insurrectionist. But the media, that same media, who called that a dark day for democracy. Oh my gosh, the January 6ers, oh my God, they stormed the Capitol building, they said. The videos look a little different, but this is the darkest day of democracy. That same media seems to be getting behind Venezuela. Now, I just want to be clear. I am not a Nicolas Maduro apologist by any means whatsoever. I am just recognizing a very clear pattern here, and I find it interesting that the regional leaders of other countries are demanding that they recount the votes. they are demanding essentially that the winner be declared Edmundo Gonzalez. They're calling it electoral scam. First among them, Milei in Argentina. Now, I want to be very clear. I don't trust anything that crawls out of Argentina with blue eyes. There's a reason for that. And that reason is because after World War II, a lot of Argentinians suddenly had blue eyes. And so I do not trust Milei. I'm happy to say that. Call it whatever you want. Something about him just reeks of a state plant to me, and how much the media is in love with him, and he just is doing the absolute most despite just getting into office. And so he has sort of led the pack, declaring this to be a fraud. Not his country, but he's like, this is an absolute fraud. It is wrong. He is demanding that Maduro publish proof of his victory, such as a district by district breakdown of vote tallies. Okay, so a neighboring country being led by Milei is demanding a breakdown district by district of the vote tallies. And Maduro is ignoring that, which is prompting further protests in his country. People are calling him, Maduro responded to Milei by calling him a cowardly bug and a traitor to the homeland and a fascist. Now, the fascist part might be true. I don't know. I got to see his genealogy because I just don't trust anything with blue eyes that comes from Argentina. That's all I'm saying. Cut it out. All right. Call me names. I get it. I shouldn't be dishonest. I just am. So here's the thing. Maduro has now spoken out, and he's pretty convinced that this is a coup. And, there might have been some earlier suggestions that they were, and by they, I mean the CIA and the global elite, were planning a coup. I don't know if you guys remember these headlines, and I'm just going to briefly remind you. But back in 2020, a U.S. Green Beret was caught organizing a failed cross-border raid of Venezuelan army deserters to remove Nicolas Maduro from office. So they did that, actually. We had this guy, let me give you his name here. His name is Jordan Goudreau, and his partner down in Venezuela, Yaxi Alvarez. Yeah, they were just trying to stage a coup of Nicolas Maduro, and it failed, and they got caught. And then they were charged with conspiracy and smuggling goods. So the writing was kind of already on the wall, because these are the sorts of things that happen. You see these sort of insurgents pop up, and suddenly they're like, oh, I'm acting totally alone. Me, as an American, I'm very concerned about what's happening down here in Venezuela. And yes, I am a decorated, as Goudreau is, a 3-time Bronze Star recipient for bravery in Iraq and Afghanistan. And everybody knows that whatever we were doing over there was just above board. America, we don't do anything that's corrupt. Okay, now there have been a few times we've done some things that are corrupt. And it turns out that Nicolas Maduro has noticed some of those things. So he gave a speech yesterday. I'm going to read to you what he said while showing you a clip of this speech. Maduro said, "The North Americans put a smile on their face, diplomatic face of deception, but behind they carry a dagger. And if you believe their smile, if you get careless, they turn around and stab you. So they have acted for almost 200 years, assassinating presidents, assassinating leaders around the world, assassinating presidents in the USA, John F. Kennedy. Who killed him? The system proven. They created what is now known as a false positive with a man named Oswald. This is well known, well denounced in a documentary film called JFK. Well documented. Kennedy was killed by the criminal mafia in Miami and by the CIA because he was working to end the Vietnam War and to reach an understanding with Cuba and end the blockade and aggression against Cuba. In fact, it is known that the same day he was killed, at the same time the news was made public, November 22nd, 1963, Fidel Castro was in Veradero in a diplomatic house and was talking with a special envoy of President Kennedy and was giving him 2 boxes of Havana cigars to take as a gift because President Kennedy liked Cuban cigars. And at that moment, one of President Fidel Castro's assistants, Comandante Fidel Castro, I think he was prime minister at the time, came in and gave him the unfortunate news. They turned on the radio and heard the news the same day, at the same time that Fidel was receiving a special envoy to discuss a plan to normalize relations. The system killed him. It has a long history of assassinations, coups around the world, and a lot of money involved. We recently condemned the assassination attempt on our former President Donald Trump, and there are a lot of questions from those who were protecting Donald Trump. Why do they allow that shooter to stand there? There are many doubts that have been expressed in the U.S. Now they are trying to cover that up so that empire accustomed to violence, to coups, prepared a scenario against Venezuela. Now, again, I am not an apologist for Maduro. Honestly, all of these leaders are corrupt around the world, but he's speaking some truth. I think he's speaking some truth. And listen, I did not have the time to go over. We don't have the time today because we cannot do the show until midnight. We eventually, the team's got to go home. I have to go sleep. I've got kids. But if I could do the show until midnight, I would take you through every situation in which America has been involved in a coup. But I did decide to put together just a few of them, just dating back to the 60s, 50s, and 60s, right? Because that's not too long ago. 1963, yeah, we were involved in a coup in Iraq that became known as the Ramadan Revolution. Then between 1959 and 1963, well, South Vietnam had just become its own country. The first president of South Vietnam, they used to be a part of France. They used to be a colony of France, and then they became their own country. And then their first president, who was extremely Catholic, just like France was extremely Catholic, and he came from a long line of strong, prominent Catholics, was assassinated. Before he was assassinated, he visited his friend JFK, and he talked about his concerns about what was happening in that region. He was concerned that something nefarious might have been going on, and then he was killed. So that actually happened. His name was Ngo Dinh Diem. So people that are South Vietnamese probably do recall that situation. And yes, those efforts of the coup were orchestrated by America. And the coup took place, believe it or not, on November 1st, All Saints' Day, when Catholics prepare for All Souls' Day, way back in 1963. So again, that just keeps happening by accident. All of these, incinerating the Catholics in Dresden, war crime, totally an accident. Dropping a bomb at Nagasaki, Catholics, war crime. All of that is by accident. Don't pay attention too much. That same year, of course, Kennedy was assassinated. And to be clear, we still don't know who did it. We don't know who shot our Catholic president, guys. They had to classify all the documents. And you crazy conspiracy theorists who think that it was the CIA, who think that there was some involvement with the Mossad, you guys are nuts. That's what I want to say. You're absolutely crazy for thinking that and for knowing about how the guy who allegedly shot him, Oswald, who said he didn't shoot him, was then shot by a guy named Jacob Rubenstein, who was then MK Ultra'd by another guy who was involved in the MK Ultra program, which was run by the CIA. Okay, listen, for knowing that is you are the problem, not them. Then we can move on here. We have let's say Cuba, obviously. That was also a part of a former Catholic empire that used to belong to Spain. And then we helped make that not a thing anymore. And then what happened between 1959 and 1962 is that we got involved with a coup. That's what we did. And then in response to the coup, Fidel Castro said, no, that's not taking place here. And then he became president. Again, that was in response to our coup. So we didn't like that when we did a coup, Fidel Castro said, you can't do that. And so then we were like, yeah, no, these Catholic Cubans are a problem. And we did what we had to do. Now, there was also, in case you didn't know this, an empire in Ethiopia. It was an Orthodox Christian empire. And that got crushed. Oh, we were involved again. I know, it's so crazy. It's always us. It's so weird. And it's just this running theme that it happens to be these strong Christian empires and countries that we go after for all the right reasons, where we were concerned. I'm not sure what we were concerned about in Ethiopia, but we did assist the Derg, which was Marxist and Leninist. And then we helped the person that was leading the Derg, a militant man, then escape after everything was overthrown. The U.S. helped him escape to Zimbabwe. So that Orthodox empire got crushed thanks to America. Lest we forget 1979, 1992, the Salvadoran Civil War. Obviously, we know El Salvador is also a Catholic country, but who's counting? And yeah, we got involved in that, similarly staged a coup. Then there was Angola, right? That too was a Roman Catholic colony of Portugal. History tells us, though, that it was an authoritarian regime that was incorporating social Catholicism. I'd like to try that here. I know, it's crazy. I might be a theocratic fascist, but I'd like to try a little social Catholicism. Anyways, we found it to be problematic. And fortunately, lucky us, the prime minister died of a stroke in 1968. And then we moved in and we helped with another regime change. I mean, America, we are incredible. Then there was that time in Chad, 1981, similar situation. This kind of had to do with Gaddafi. You know, he was like all about like African empowerment. He was working with the UN, and his next door neighbor from Libya was Chad, and he had a great relationship with that guy. And it says here that really the U.S. had an issue because they saw that the leader of Chad was just too close to Gaddafi. It was a problem. You know, the Gaddafi was becoming powerful and he was getting along with his neighbors. So they found that president or that leader, Uade, had to go. And so that's what we did. We just overthrew it. Because that's what we have to do. In order to protect democracy, in order to spread democracy, you have to keep thwarting it. Now, every good American student knows that's how it works. If we want to protect and save democracy, we got to keep thwarting it and killing people, all right? And that's how this goes, and that's what happened. And in 1989, we did this again in Panama. 1991, who could forget what we did in Haiti? And it goes on, and it goes on, and it goes on. And it seems as though it really never quite stops. And so you have to forgive me. I might be becoming a little bit cynical. I will admit it. But this just seems like a pattern. Again, I've only, I think, mentioned about 8 there to you. Just a pattern. When we want to get involved and we start arming civilians and we get arms in there, helping jihadists, obviously, we know what happened in Afghanistan. That was another one where we armed the Mujahideen. I mean, you could actually say that we were the jihadists, actually. So it's kind of weird now that everyone's afraid of what we created. We arm militants, we get people overthrown, and then we call those people that we armed terrorists. It's like this really weird thing, and it just never stops. So what's going on in Venezuela? Oh, probably the same stuff that happened in Ukraine. I know the press kind of told you that, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that Russia invaded Ukraine for no reason, but that's actually not what happened. So I'm going to show you this little teaser for next week. I sat down with Dave Smith. He is one of my favorites. And we spoke for an hour and a half at length about everything that is happening in America and abroad. And he brought up the absolute insane narrative surrounding Ukraine and the American ignorance of what we did in that region that may have, in fact, pissed off Vladimir Putin. Take a listen.
Like, if you look at what's known as the Maidan Revolution in 2014, I mean, there's a lot of, first off, the National Endowment for Democracy and the USAID are just pouring millions of dollars into it. And the Soros NGOs are the ones who got the protesters out onto the street. Like, it's so clearly a U.S. regime change.
100%.
But on top of that, you have Victoria Nuland and John McCain and Senator Murphy and a couple others who are all in the middle of the protest with them saying, we're with you the whole way. They're handing out food and water. And what Jeffrey Sachs said, which I thought was great, I didn't think of this, but I'm glad he did. He's more clever than me. But he goes, just imagine if on January 6th, you had a bunch of high-ranking Chinese officials who were there with the protesters, right, saying, we have your back. We're with you. Take down this government. I mean, could you imagine what the response to that would have been?
That's exactly what happened in Ukraine. For
so that's literally what the U.S. did.
That's literally what we did in Ukraine. Now, don't worry. Don't listen to me and Dave. It's coming out next week. Don't listen to us, because what will happen thereafter is that they'll crush history in that region. And so no one will remember exactly what happened. Then they'll have the mainstream media reinforcing that everything we did was above board. Everything that we do always is above board. We believe in democracy so much here in the West, that the best way that we can spread it is by crushing it. And if that sounds like a paradox to you, well, I don't know what to tell you. You're just not properly educated. You need to receive a mainstream media, military industrial complex education. And of course, to be clear to everybody watching this around the world, Americans, this is not helping America either, right? Like I said, we lost our country too when they shot JFK. We are talking about a global elite who essentially uses countries as bodies to fulfill their initiatives. They use our troops to fulfill their initiatives as they continue to try to corrupt and take down and weaken every nation that is strong. And they did this at first by crushing all the empires, these strong Christian empires around the world. And then they divvy it up because they know that what is divided cannot stand. So that's what's happening around the world. And that's my viewpoint of what's happening in Venezuela. I understand that the people believe that these protests are natural, and that is a part of how a color revolution works. It is how it's always worked. They pass out pamphlets, like the pamphleteers back in the Russian Revolution. Getting people all fired up. That is the Marxist doctrine. Oh, it's going to be the sigh of the people that are impoverished, and they don't even know what's going to come after. And what's going to come after is going to be really bad. I mean, I think it was Alexander Solzhenitsyn who wrote that the history books reflect and make you think that all of these empires were so evil. That's part of it. They lied to you about history. And I think he gave the exact number of people that were put to death under Tsar Nicholas's regime, right? And the number was 17. And of course, then we had to just take down that Christian monarchy. It had to go. And in its place, what rose up was, about 67 million Christians being sent to the gulags and murdered. So that's how democracy works. That's how it has to work. That's how it has to function. And that's all I'm going to say about that topic. Want to quickly thank one of the greatest sponsors of this show, which is Preborn. You guys already know my spiel, what I talked to you about. Planned Parenthood is a great evil. It is child sacrifice operating as something else. They rake in billions despite having dwindling clients. And the biggest takeaway is that Planned Parenthood is generating vast profits, including millions in taxpayer funding. But with Preborn, that is you and me, we get to actively have an opportunity to take their clientele, meaning we get to rescue babies. Preborn operates on a very slim budget, rescuing over 200 babies' lives every day with no government funding. Preborn's network of clinics are situated in the darkest corners of the nation, competing head-to-head with the abortion giant, and they need our help now more than ever. When you donate just $28 to Preborn, you will offer a free ultrasound to an expectant mother that is caught in a crisis, because once she hears that baby's heartbeat and sees that precious life, her baby's chance at life doubles. So please sponsor a precious baby's life today. Your tax-deductible gift will go directly towards saving baby's life. You just dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250 baby, or go to preborn.com/Candace. That's preborn.com/Candace. All right, guys, let's talk about Kamala Harris. I'm going to now code switch. Let me talk to you about Kamala Harris, because she is my girl. These streets is talking, and I'm going to tell you right now, I'm finna go vote for Kamala Harris right now. Sorry, I just want to make sure my Black listeners know that they should vote for her. And apparently the only way they can understand why they should vote for her is if I speak any Ebonics. So again, I'm going to just keep that going. Girl, thank goodness we have upon us a strong Black candidate. No slave ships for us, or whatever. So here's the deal. You have Kamala Harris, and she was, throughout her entire political life, a very proud Indian woman. And that makes sense, because in case you didn't know this, Kamala Harris, despite being some percentage of Black, her father is not fully Black, her mother is fully Indian. She grew up with just her mother because her parents divorced when she was either 4 or 7, when she was very young. She wouldn't have quite memory of her father. That's why she doesn't speak about her Black father. So it is an absolute absurdity to suggest that Kamala Harris grew up in an environment where she was being impacted by Black culture. I'll show you a couple of pictures of her, by the way, growing up. There she is. This is her as an adult, obviously, with her mother, and perhaps, I'm guessing, her sister, not entirely sure. Here is another photo of Kamala Harris with her mother, and her mother looks very Indian to me. Her mother looks like Princess Jasmine, exactly like Princess Jasmine's hairstyle, right? Here she is. Traditional Indian upbringing that Kamala Harris had. And I want to be clear, Kamala Harris, like I said, loved being an Indian woman, because it helped her when she was running for various positions. And when she became a senator, she got to applaud the fact that she was the first Indian American. She was so proud of her heritage as an Indian her entire life. I'm just going to jog your memory by showing you just a couple of clips of how the news covered her, because this is how she was running. Take a listen.
California's Kamala Harris is the first Indian American U.S. senator.
And California's Attorney General Kamala Harris has scripted history as she won the U.S. Senate seat from the state, becoming the first Indian American to achieve this feat.
And certainly you could become the first Indian senator in U.S. history, which would be quite an accomplishment.
Not good.
I think she was speaking a different language. She was very excited. Anyways, that was Kamala Harris before she found out that she had to go black. She had to go black. And that is what has to happen if you want to secure the black vote and you're a Democratic candidate. They're not even updating the manuscript. I respect it. They are like, okay, what do we do every 4 years? They're like, okay, first find a black person that dies in the hand of police. Got it. Done. Talk about that person and talk about police brutality. Got it. Done. Who we got? We got Sonia Massey. Okay, we're going to start talking about her, get them all fired up. Let's do some headlines against black conservatives, go after Candace. Okay, great. Got it. Done. What's next? We need you to just go black. Can you do that? Yes. What do I have to do to be black? Well, you got to find some rappers to say, like, you know, you're black, because that's how you become black, by the way. Apparently, you just have to have a couple of rappers shout you out in the right way, because, you know, Eminem shouted me out in the other way. The rappers, I guess, are doing the check now of who's allowed to be black and who's not allowed to be black. And so it makes perfect sense since Joe Biden, I know she probably wanted to call Cardi B, but, you know, they were like, oh, we already used Cardi B in 2020 to get Joe Biden elected. And then Joe Biden didn't speak about Cardi B for 4 years. Definitely didn't hit her up, call her for any advice. It might be too hot right now. If we hit her back up, let's try somebody similar to her or someone that she's friends with. Megan Thee Stallion. And you know that she was like, who is Megan the Stallion? What is that? Like at the Kentucky Derby? Voting on a horse? No. Megan Thee Stallion. She's like one half of the hip hop WAP duo. And she was like, okay, like whatever, get her on the phone. And they said, Megan, the White House is calling and we have a woman who's now black. She said no black experiences. Definitely wasn't getting her head popped by the brush like the rest of us were. She has no idea what that means. She doesn't even get that. So we're talking about moving your head, just getting hit by a brush. But she's going to lean into this and we need you to get on stage and just twerk because that's what you black people like, right? And Megan Thee Stallion answered the call. Here she is, guys, on stage, shaking her booty for Kamala Harris. Oh, I'm just going to start doing that. I think all black people will watch this podcast if I just start shaking my butt. So I'm going to start shaking my butt. That'll get people to listen to me, obviously. Oh, now we know you black. Because I saw Candace, she was working on her podcast, and now I know for sure that she is black. And here is what's amazing, and there are some black people that are calling this out for the code switch, but it is the round of applause that she is getting as she tells these horrific jokes. So just to jog your memory, let's not forget what she said at the BET Awards when she did this awful cringe-inducing skit that I should be able to sue her for. I cringed so hard to be able to sue her, but here's what she said at the end of that skit. Take a listen.
Yeah, girl, I'm out here in these streets.
Oh, yeah, girl, she out here in these streets. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I respect it. What do you want me to do? I respect it. It's good. It's good. And I thought that was the worst cringe. But then came her speech. I don't even know where she was speaking. And she did the appeal again. Again, take a listen.
Donald Trump, on the other hand, has been talking a big game about securing our border, but he does not walk the walk. Or as my friend Quavo would say, he does not walk it like he talks it.
Oh, she's friends with Quavo. What's next? Eminem gonna drop a couple of songs telling her she's definitely black, not like Candace Owens. Yo. What is this? Okay, you know what? When I see this, is how it feels to me. So imagine if I decided to run, I don't know, in India, and I just decided to be like, hello, thank you very much for helping to watch the Candace show. I'm coming to you live from the Candace podcast. What do you guys think? Do you think people be offended by that? Because that's literally me watching her try to code switch and put on a black scent, right? Becoming a cartoon stereotype of what she believes every black person sounds like and can relate to. That's what it's like for me as I watch that. And if I ever see Kamala Harris, that's exactly how I'm going to talk. That's exactly how I'm going to talk. I'm going to talk like a Simpsons character. And then we're just going to see what happens as she starts pretending to be black. And then I'm just going to throw back to her pretending to be Indian, because that is the culture that she actually identifies with. And we're just going to see where we get. And the answer is going to be nowhere. But here's my thing. Okay. if black people vote for her on the basis of that, okay, well, Candace is not black. If black people vote for her on the basis of her pretending that she listens to Megan Thee Stallion and Quavo, she has not. Have you seen her husband? Nope. Doesn't bring him around nowhere. Nope. She does not. Have you seen her entire family? There is no one in that household that is listening to Megan Thee Stallion. Not a single person that's listening to Megan Thee Stallion, least of all her. Okay? But if you're going to vote for her according to that, you deserve what you get. I don't care. Call me an enemy. I don't care. I respect it. If you keep buying the salt and you're a slug, then I gotta just respect the game. I'm done telling you guys. I'm done trying to tell you guys what happens every 4 years. You keep maiming and caricaturing me and being convinced that that woman has your best interest. You get what you get. In fact, Quavo, honestly, if she was still district attorney, she'd probably arrest his ass. Pardon my language. Pardon my language. I think she'd send him to prison. I'm done. I am so done. Let me move on from this topic, you guys. Thanking another one of my sponsors, Grand Canyon University. It is a private Christian university in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona. They believe that we are all endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. GCU's mission is to empower virtuous action through higher education by honoring your career calling, your impact, your family, your friends, and your community. Change the world for good by putting others before yourself to glorify God. Whether your pursuit involves a bachelor's, master's, or doctoral degree, GCU's online, on-campus, and hybrid learning environments are designed to help you achieve your unique academic, personal, and professional goals. The pursuit to serve others is yours. So find your purpose at Grand Canyon University. It's private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu. All right, guys, now let's jump into some of your comments regarding episodes past. Actually, you know what? I'm going to jump into the live chat here because that's going to be even better. As someone here saying they deserve what they get. People that vote for Kamala on the basis of that absolutely deserve what they get. I completely agree. I'm going to first go to the people that are donating here in the chat. Okay, Vishan says, yep. Vishan says up to 20% of Argentines has blue eyes, huge European ancestry, German, French, and Italian, etc. I agree the Venezuela thing stinks of the CIA. Kind of worrying to see the whole right jump to conclusion. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it makes no sense to me. I saw Elon Musk jumping all over it. Elon Musk, saying, oh, this is like actually a people's revolution. It's like, no, it's not. And you can tell because the mainstream media is endorsing it and the mainstream media is an arm of the CIA. I don't know how many times I can tell you that Operation Mockingbird was established in the wake of JFK being killed by the CIA. They then decided to, did I say killed by the CIA? I'm sorry, we don't know who killed him. But after he was killed, the CIA minted Operation Mockingbird and began putting journalists on payroll to control the perception of the public. How's it working? I would say still pretty well, given, I don't know, just watching black people there think that Kamala Harris is black at all. Big Fat Burn writes, yes, people of Venezuela are suffering. They suffer mostly because of the American sanctions. The UK stole the state gold too. They are trying a Gaddafi on Maduro. Why is Musk acting like a CIA agent? I genuinely do not know what his deal is right now. I don't know. I don't know what to think about Elon Musk right now. There's been a couple of things that he just kind of seems, case in point, going to Bibi Netanyahu's speech. I don't know what's going on. I feel like it's a different Elon Musk today than it was when he first purchased Twitter. I hope I'm wrong, though, because I did really think that he was kind of the social media superhero that we had need for. Like he was going to be our Batman. I know that sounds lame, but I just actually believed in him. So it sucks to see him go this way. The Real Queen writes, you and David Nino Rodriguez would be great to see have a discussion. And my producer is noting that David Nino Rodriguez is an American heavyweight boxer. He was formerly ranked number 13 in the world by the WBC and number 12 by the WBA. Sure, I'll have a discussion with him as long as I don't have to fight him. This person writes, again, thank you for all that you do. You are making a change for good. Satan is among us, and we must fight back as Christians. What would you say is the best way to fight back in just daily life? I would say, without question, the best way to fight back is to be bold. So many people are fearful. Like I said, where I'm at, if you have a platform, they're fearful of being canceled. They're fearful, of losing their jobs. So they roll up their sleeves and they get the vaccine, and they just get completely just moving like sheep, right? It's unbelievable to see people give up their national sovereignty, to give up their bodily autonomy, all in the name of fitting in. And that's how you know that it's all about psychology. So steel yourself psychologically, support the independent voices, support Dave Smith, support Tucker Carlson. Thank you guys who have signed up at locals.com and are supporting me. I know that I owe you links this week, and I promise it's going to happen. Look, you can also do this. Cutting here to tell you guys, these are the new Candace cups. This says conspiracy theorist on the front, and the back says don't care, built different, because that's my favorite clip, which I'll show you shortly. It's one that is the way us regular people think. It really shows how people who are deemed conspiracy theorists, like, no, we are rational, logical thinkers, and we refuse to have the government treat us like we're sheep. On that note, I do also want to thank our last show sponsor of today, American Financing. In today's economic environment, the stress of providing for a family and yourself can sometimes seem overwhelming, and putting everyday expenses on credit cards only elevates that stress. You have to find a way out of that never-ending cycle of debt, you guys. I have an answer for you. Call my friends at American Financing. They are helping people just like you turn things around by using the equity in their homes to pay off that high-interest debt. They understand what you're going through. They talk to people like you and people in your position every single day. American Financing is saving their borrowers an average of $854 a month, which amounts to basically a $10,000 a year raise. And they're closing some in as little as 10 days. So if you start today, you may not even have to make next month's mortgage payment. There's no better time than now to turn your situation around. Call 800-795-1210. That's 800-795-1210, or visit americanfinancing.net/Owens. Okay, guys, I do have to show you this mug, because we have to show this clip of, guys, can you pull that up, of Andrew Tate? Because this is the reason, and this was the thought process. Someone in the live chat was like, your next cups, Candace cups, should say don't care, built different, because it is my favorite moment of Andrew Tate on the internet, because it embodies exactly how I think, and that I am proud to be a conspiracy theorist. You can call me whatever you want. We are the ones that still have common sense. We do not care. We are built different. Let's cut to Andrew Tate in this amazing clip.
Don't care. Built different. Don't care.
I got to show you guys the full clip too when we have it. Maybe that'll be tomorrow, where he speaks about how, common sense told me not to get the vaccine because everyone wanted me to get the vaccine so bad. That's it. He always just says, who's the source? The source is the streets. That's what he says. And the streets told me not to get the vaccine, while the midwit experts told me to get the vaccine. It is not happening. Okay, back to your comments. A few more here. Liz writes, I love your show, Candace. Please read Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Also look into Tommy Robinson documentary and maybe an episode on what's going on in the UK. Love from England. Yes, that sounds like a great idea. I actually should do updates from around the world. Sarah Thabita writes, the devil tries to silence her, but we will make her message loud. Everyone subscribe at Locals to help spread God's truth. She needs us to step up. Thank you so much, Sarah. And yeah, I do believe that I can do it with just the people, and I don't have to sell out to a corporation, because as it's already been proven, so many of you guys have donated to us so that we can keep the show free and keep my voice free and not enslaved by corporate narratives. And sometimes that corporate narrative for a lot of people is a military-industrial complex. We all know that's why Tucker Carlson got fired, because he wouldn't peddle the Ukraine lines. This person writes, also look into Mr. Beast getting exposed for I'm not going to read that, because I think actually what happened with Mr. Beast, it was his partner. Is that correct? And I just want to make sure that I stay away from making an accusation about someone that could get me into a lot of trouble. But I know that there was a story there, and I promise that I will cover it tomorrow. I think it was somebody on his show that was working with him for a while and is no longer working there, but was perhaps transgendered, and things got a little bit crazy. Israel writes, Candace, I'm a fan. Maduro's government just kidnapped 1,000 protesters, and 16 people have been murdered. Me and my family have suffered from dictatorship. I want to be very clear. I am not at all saying that I agree with Maduro. I understand what has happened in Venezuela over the last years, the starvation, the lack of food, all of these things that have taken place. But what I am saying is that in every aspect of government, what the U.S. often does is support the regime change until we're done with who we change the regime to, and then we change it again. And that is a cycle in which the people don't recognize. I'm just trying to get you guys to sort of zoom out and see the big picture here, which is every predicament that you are in is being sponsored and pushed by the global elite. So they allowed him to assume power, and now they're done with him, and they are going to put somebody else there. That is what I predict is going to happen. I truly hope that I am wrong, and that nobody is assassinated. But I, of course, nowhere in the world, I hate the fact that no matter which way you spin it, it is the people who suffer, the people who are not a part of the oligarchy. And that's all of us, by the way, all around the world. Katie writes, did you know that the word Kamala means terrible in Finnish? God bless you, Candace. We need more people like you in the world. Sarah writes, I'm a Muslim and I can say loud and proud, Christ is king. Indeed, he is. And that is a good place for us to end. You guys, head to clubcandace.com and get your Stannis Cup. Head to CandaceOwens.com and become a supporter of the show. And I'm not speaking to black people until after the election. That's how I feel right now. I just want to say that right now. I'm not talking to any black people until after the election, because if we're buying this Kamala Harris stuff, we can't be friends right now. I'm deleting my sisters from my phone, my cousins. I'm not talking to any of you until you deal with Kamala Harris and this black scent that she's putting on. All right, guys, I'll see you guys tomorrow.